Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: employee stole from the company, was fired, and didn't get a new job. The second story: I knew the bad guy's boss, and BD was fired for being rude. The third story: I caught a thief who was stealing my pen. And the first story is pressured to do something unethical. Manager caught in web. I used to work for a large heavy equipment rental company. We had a large fleet of equipment, plus pickup trucks for operators, that included fuel pumps for the equipment when on a job site for extended periods of time. In the beginning, I was a parts runner with the shop manager, Nosferatu, because that's how he looked, as my direct supervisor. Then there was the branch manager, Dong, because that's what he is, who oversaw everything. Dong lived up to his namesake, had a military-style flat top, even though he never served, and yelled constantly. My sister also worked for this company, and he constantly berated her for, get this, doing her job properly. She got her own malicious compliance in, but was eventually laid off when the company hit a rough patch. Turned out to be the best thing ever, because she now has a far better job. Dong continued to talk crap about everybody, and anytime I would approach him regarding things I heard he told others on my work ethic, he claimed he never said it. If I'm doing my job wrong, I want to improve, but he claimed I was doing everything right. Yet when my reviews came around, his comments were always negative, and I would not get a raise. Nosferatu and the assistant service manager were fired because they brought guns to work and were firing them into boxes in the office after hours. I was offered the role of assistant service manager for that branch and our neighboring branch, which also meant the service manager of the neighbor branch was to oversee both. We'll call him Gonzo, and became my direct supervisor. Also, I was now considered a corporate employee, so Dong had no control over my position. He tried his best to F with me, trying to change my schedule, make me spend more time in his branch, etc. And while I tried to comply, it wasn't with much effort. My boss spent more time in Dong's branch, and I spent more time in the other because we lived closer respectively, and we could divide and conquer. The system was working well, and we were bringing the maintenance department into the current age, technologically. During this time, the company installed GPS units on every piece of equipment that was rented and pickup truck. We could track running times for billing purposes, and pickups were sending alerts if someone drove over 65 miles per hour. Really effing annoying. The amount of data I could pull was amazing, and we only opted for about a fourth of the options. One morning, a tractor we used at Dong's yard was missing. It didn't have GPS, but there was a truck with a trailer, capable of towing the tractor, hooked up next to the shop. On a whim, I checked the GPS for the truck, and the night before it went directly to Dong's house, and came back early that morning. I downloaded a few reports, created a new Gmail account, and sent everything to our corporate office anonymously. 2 days later, the tractor was back and I never heard anything. Sometime later, Dong demands that we wire a specific truck's GPS unit to send a signal when the auxiliary fuel pump gets turned on. Simple work and something the company should have opted for to begin with. 1 extra wire, but he wanted to set up a certain operator who was believed to be stealing fuel. I tried to explain that this is unethical and potentially illegal. I had no idea if it was actually illegal, and Dong just screamed at me that he would have his buddies in corporate fire me. When he left my office, I called Gonzo and the head of maintenance to cover my A. Gonzo, thinking ahead, requested if we could start doing this on all of the trucks, which the head of maintenance said yes. He asked me not to tell anybody but the mechanics about it. Sure enough, the night the operator took the truck home, the fuel pump was turned on in 3 locations on his property. He was promptly SH-canned, and Dong was stiff with satisfaction. See what I did there? Months later, we have all the trucks in our branches wired to the fuel pumps, and have long forgotten about it. I'm at work in the neighbor branch, while Gonzo is at Dong's, and he calls me from his cell phone. Gonzo: hey, dude, can you pull up the GPS on truck XYZ? Me: are you effing blind? It's right outside your office window. Gonzo: no SH, where did it go last night? Me, now understanding, and a couple of clicks later: dude, it went to Dong's, and the fuel pump was on for 15 minutes. Gonzo: we filled that tank up last night for a job today, 100 gallons, and it's bone dry now. Print the reports and send them to me. Now, I knew my boss was going to report this. He had friends in corporate too, but I also knew how things get swept under the rug in the company, which our parent company must have known when they implemented a third-party ethics hotline where we could report anything. And Dong was adamant about us using it. So I did. I took the GPS reports, the video from our cameras, showing the yard guy filling the saddle tank, and Dong later leaving with the vehicle, and a summary of what I believed happened, all from the Anon Gmail account. The ethics hotline was required to report everything to the company and follow up to get a resolution. I knew at the bare minimum I would receive a response. My prayers were answered a week later when the head of safety, R. Lee Ermey, was in our area for his routine visits. R, like his namesake, was a retired Marine drill instructor. Kind as can be in general, but takes no SH, and isn't afraid to tell you. His first stop when he visited was my office. As I knew when sending everything to the ethics hotline, it would easily be traceable to me. I just didn't want it in writing. R knew what was up, and we went through everything together. Without saying as much, I knew he agreed with my findings. He was disappointed I did not come to him first, but he also understood my mistrust in the system for previous issues, before he was with the company. R made the rounds talking to others, and got the same general story from everybody, that Dong was 250 pounds of tube steak. By the end of the week, it was announced that Dong was leaving the company, and the two branches would now entirely act as one, while remaining physically separate. All of our jobs were made significantly easier because nothing was separated anymore, and we didn't have a walking phallus spewing off constantly. I did it again. The relief we all felt was incredible. I had to call my sister when I got the word, and she began crying. He made her life hell, and it was a victory for everybody. Dong would try to force her to bill things incorrectly so we would get more money, like taxing things that are not taxable, or adjust operators' tags so we could bill more or pay operators less. She was already working and going to school, BA full-time, so she didn't need his SH. I never spoke to Dong again. However, he does show up on my LinkedIn recommendations often. Every time I see his name, I view his profile. Years later, he has no new employer. He was close to retirement, and he says he's a construction consultant. I take constant joy in knowing he gets to see my face for viewing his profile, and he can see me moving up at my new company. The second story is, I just wanted the truck moved. I worked as a security guard downtown in a large Canadian city. This story starts when I got a phone call from one of the other guards working. He found a contractor had parked and left a truck in a loading dock bay, and was inquiring if I knew anything about it. The site I worked at had 2 buildings, over 60 floors between them, and that shared a loading dock with only 3 spaces. Occasionally, on an expected slower day, contractors could ask us to leave a vehicle there if they were doing a quick job, but it was infrequent, as the loading dock was really busy. Around this time, there was a company who had just rented 2 or 3 floors, and there was a massive remodel going on there. People were in and out constantly, and the job was going to run for a few months. This made the loading dock bays busy enough that we weren't letting anyone park there, just unload. I had been there that day, and no one had asked permission to park, and nothing had been passed on from other guards or property management. I told the guard as much, and he went to find the contractor to have the vehicle moved. About half an hour later, as I'm patrolling, I hear my guard arguing with someone near the building control center. As I approached, I picked up this was an argument about the truck. The contractor was saying that they had been given permission to park there. I walked up and explained that there were only 2 people on the site that day that could have given permission. I was one of them and worked with the other for half the day, and we didn't give anyone permission to park there. He needed to move the vehicle. The contractor left at that point, and I thought the issue was settled. About 15 minutes later, I was covering a break in the control room when the foreman of the contract company, who's also the owner of the truck, approached me and told me they had been promised parking and aren't going to move the truck. I again politely explained to him that he didn't have permission and that the truck needed to move as we needed the loading dock space. He then proceeded to yell at me, call me worthless, explained how he was so much more important than I was, how he made my yearly salary in a month, and most importantly, he wasn't moving the truck, and he would get me fired if I kept harassing him. As I started to respond, he just turned and walked away, as he was too busy to bother with me. I was furious. It's bad enough to be a disrespecting a-hole, but to also threaten my job was too far. I followed after them and asked them really quickly what company they were with, got the company name and left them alone. I went back to the control center and called the company. I explained who I was, that the truck was illegally parked, that the contractor threatened to have me fired for asking him to move the truck, and that he refused to speak with me about the issue, as he was worth too much to bother with a lowly security guard. We spoke for a few minutes as she apologized and asked me what I wanted to happen. I just asked the contractor to be spoken with, as that level of disrespect is unacceptable. And lastly, the truck had to be moved. Pretty quickly, the truck was moved, and the night supervisor for the 3-floor building came and apologized. The contractors were friends of his. He had given them permission to park there, as they were helping out for the next few weeks on the job. He paid to park the truck himself, and it cost over $150 to park just for the night in the closest lot. He didn't come across as actually apologetic at all, more a guy doing damage control for his friends. This is where the revenge gets pro. $150 in parking is petty at best. The next day, I ran into one of the contractors I was on great terms with. We would often talk for a while when we could. He explained that he was the lead for the entire build on the project, which I hadn't realized previously. I thought he was just one of the regular guys. He spoke with the night supervisor and heard about the issue, chewed out the night supervisor for handling the situation so poorly, fired the subcontractors from the job, and blacklisted them from ever doing business with them again. The main contractor company was a huge company that's constantly doing work with the property management company, who owns around a third of all the major buildings in that city, and similar amounts in most of the other big Canadian cities. Not a company you want a bad reputation with. The last story is to catch a pen thief. So, I work in an aerospace facility that's large enough that you'll never meet everyone who works there. It's the type of place where everything you could need, pens included, are provided for you. However, as free pens go, you already know they're the SH ones. I'll just buy my own pens, thanks. Around the time of this incident, I had just taken a promotion. Part of the deal was that I'd be working second shift instead of first. Okay by me. As I'm getting used to my new schedule, I started losing my pens. Not abnormal for me, but it was happening too often that I'd come into work, and I swear I put my pen right here last night, but now I can't find it. I grew suspicious of my now previous coworkers, who knew where I usually stashed things, and I hatched a plan. First, I had to make sure my pen was indeed being taken, rather than me losing my mind due to my new schedule. I bought a pack of Pilot G2s, duh, best pen out there, and laid a trap. Now, I work in the machine shop, and there are toolboxes everywhere. I set up and run multiple machines, but there's a particular machine that everybody knows is kinda my home base. In that accompanying toolbox, I left a pen in the top drawer, right front and center for a pendejo to find, and sure enough, it was gone the next day. I'm not crazy, and the hunt has begun. In my line of work, we have controlled documents. Every piece and part is documented and serialized. One of our huge taboos is using any color other than black on these documents. It was obvious what I had to do. When I bought my last pack of G2s to avoid having to use the craptacular provided pens, I also bought a set of colored G2s. I took the ink cartridge from a pink pen and used a black Sharpie to hide both the ink in the tube and the colored cap on top of the cartridge. Looked a bit ugly, but I knew I wasn't dealing with a pro here. I placed the pink, now black cartridge in an unsuspecting black pen body and left it in my usual hiding spot. The next day when I came into work, sure enough the pen was gone. My trap had worked. First thing I heard in my shift pass down meeting was how some dummy used pink ink on a work order this morning, and I'd better make sure for the millionth time that my new employees knew better than to do something that dumb. Didn't even have to fess up to setting a trap. Nailed that fool right to the wall, and no one knows what I did. Suck it, Benjamin. I've also been enjoying the other side of this coin too. Haven't had a single one of my color pens taken. I hope you love these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out. Bye!